Hi, my name is Jeff Morgan. I am from Dallas, Texas. Today is Tuesday, November the 28th, and I'm just going to speak a few moments about the upcoming meeting with the Attorney General Ken Paxton, the Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton. The purpose of this meeting is to speak with individuals, parents who have been affected by the issue of child support in the state of Texas. Many people have told me, and when I say many people, I mean both men and women, and in fact, perhaps I've heard more from women than from men about the collection practices in the state of Texas and how they feel that they're abusive and how these practices are actually destroying families, even imprisoning fathers and mothers who, for whatever reason, cannot afford to make their child support payments. We need to also have some positive suggestions on how the system can be reformed. So the child support in Indiana is determined by a number of factors. It is determined by, of course, the number of children and the age of the children. It's determined by the gross income of each parent. It's also another factor is whether the father or the mother has subsequent children, whether a father or mother has a court order or legal duty to pay child support for prior born children, whether either parent has to pay spousal maintenance in Indiana or alimony in another state or territory, how much parenting time each parent gets. And parenting time appears to be defined as annual overnights. So if you get to see a child for 2 hours on a Thursday evening, that is not considered 1 day of visitation with your child. That's considered 2 hours. In the state of Indiana, they look at the parenting time by the annual number of overnights that a parent actually gets. Which parent pays for the controlled expenses? And controlled expenses would be things like clothing, education. If a child is engaged in a sports activity, a number of things fall under the controlled expenses. And it also makes adjustments for the amount that one or both parents pay toward the child's share of the health insurance premium. How much each parent pays for child care while working or actively seeking employment. This is not a tool by which you can gouge your spouse for extra money. If you need to go to work and your spouse is available and your ex-spouse is available and can be with the children, the state of Indiana encourages that. And the state of Indiana takes that into account. The ex-spouse has the first right of refusal to be with the children. So you just can't say, well, I'm going to pay this babysitter. In fact, I'm going to pay my mother to babysit for this, and I'm going to pay her $20 an hour to babysit the children, and then I'm going to charge my ex-husband or my ex-wife, and we're going to make money off of this. No, you can't do that. The first right of refusal goes to the other parent. The interesting thing that I noticed about this, we'll say that maybe the children spend 50 nights in your house and 300 nights in your ex-spouse's house, but your ex-spouse makes, we'll say, $200,000 and you make $40,000. Well, in Texas, of course, they need to get child support paid to them. In Indiana, it may not work that way because both parents' income are taken into account. So even though you as a mother or a father may only have your children 50 nights out of the year, if your ex-spouse makes, we'll say, 5 times as much money as you do, you make $40,000 a year, he or she makes $200,000 a year, you're not paying your spouse half of your salary or 30% or whatever it is for child support. You can actually be a custodial parent, and I hate the term custodial parent because you're both parents, but the custodial parent can actually pay the non-custodial parent child support. So, for example, with this one lady that talked to me recently, she mentioned that her ex-husband makes about $200,000 a year. She makes $40,000 a year. She doesn't get to see the children as much because he is the, quote, custodial parent. So she has to pay him child support. And as a result of the child support that she pays him, she has to live with her mother, because if she did not have her mother to live with, she would not be able to have a place for herself. That seems grossly unfair. In Indiana, they do a little bit differently. So in the situation that I am alluding to, the father who makes $200,000, even though he has primary custodial care of the children, the mother is still important. And he would be paying her child support for the time that the children spend with her. Now, there are problems, of course, with every system, but to me it seems that Indiana has a much better way of approaching things. One of the things that I've heard repeatedly is how many people have been driven to the place of bankruptcy, or been driven to the place of homelessness, or having to move in with their parents, or having to move in with a friend, or being so far behind that they're afraid they're going to be arrested in the state of Texas because they cannot afford to pay the support that is levied upon them. So Indiana parenting guidelines talk about the importance that both parents have in the lives of their children. To ensure more responsible parenting and to promote the healthy adjustment and growth of a child, each parent should recognize and address a child's basic needs. Number one, to know that the parent's decision to live apart is not the child's fault. If you talk with children of divorce, often you will find children that think somehow it was my fault. When my parents got divorced, that was one of the things that I thought about. What could I have done? What could I have done to keep their marriage together? Even a political candidate like Ted Cruz, when he was running for president, speaking at the Family Forum up in Iowa, he mentioned how devastated he was that he could not fix his parents' marriage. And a child needs to know that the decision of the parents, and I'm going to even just say both parents, I want to say one parent, because in many instances divorce happens at the insistence of one parent, not both. But the decision of whether it be one parent or a mutual decision of both parents to live apart from each other is not the child's fault. Number two, to develop and maintain an independent relationship with each parent and to have the continuing care and guidance from each parent. In other words, the state of Indiana recognizes that both parents are important. Mothers are important and fathers are important. Number three, children need to be free from having to side with either parent or to be free from conflict between parents. You should not be trying to demonize your spouse. Number four, to have a relaxed, secure relationship with each parent without being placed in a position to manipulate one parent against the other. Number five, to enjoy regular and consistent time with each parent. Each parent, not just one. There are some people who think that I'm the custodial parent, I get to make all the rules. Wrong. Both parents are important, and both parents should have the right to enjoy regular and consistent time with each child, and each child should have that same right toward each parent. Number six, to be financially supported by each parent. In other words, this is not just one parent's responsibility that, he's not paying the bills and that's why we're not doing good, or she's not paying the bill, she's behind on child support. No, you both work together for the sake of your children, and that's regardless of how much time each parent spends with a child. So that's why in the state of Indiana, you can actually be a non-custodial parent and still receive child support to make sure that the child is actually physically supported. Because the person with a lot of money can manipulate things, can use financial incentives to alienate a child from the other parent. And in other instances, like in the state of Texas, many times what happens is the father or the mother pays child support, and then the person who received the child support makes it appear as if he or she is giving the money and buying all these gifts for the kids. Whereas the reality is it's the other parent who's providing the finances for that child. Number seven, a child needs to be physically safe and adequately supervised when in the care of each parent, and to have a stable, consistent, and responsible child care arrangements when not supervised by a parent. Now, here's the way this plays out. So in Indiana, the person who is not the custodial parent, and again, I hate that term, but the non-custodial parent has the first right of refusal. First right of refusal means that if one parent is working and has the children and the other parent is available or just wants to have the children, that parent gets first priority over anybody else on whether he or she gets to see the children. So in Texas, what happens is sometimes we will put a child in child care and then we'll say, you're not paying your expenses, your share of the expenses in child care. But the father or mother say, well, why don't I get to see my child? Well, I will watch them. They'll have a relationship with me. They'll have a relationship with both of them. It'll be less money and it's better for the child. But the custodial parent wants to be in charge and tell the other parent, boss the other parent around, or alienate the other parent from the child. That is completely wrong. The state of Indiana recognizes that. The state of Texas seems to be, in my opinion, a little bit behind in that area. And another one of the child's basic needs, number 8, is to develop and maintain meaningful relationships with other significant adults. And by other significant adults, they mean grandparents, step-parents, and other relatives, as long as these relationships do not interfere with or replace the primary relationship with parents. So I, as a grandparent, have been fighting for grandparent rights in the state of Texas. Many grandparents will tell you that when a divorce happens, what happens to them is that they get cut out of the child's life. They may have had a strong relationship with the child, but a divorce takes place. The custodial parent gets the children and decides that he or she does not want the children to have a relationship with the ex-spouse's parents, wants to destroy the grandparent-grandchild relationship. In the state of Texas, grandparents basically have no rights. Well, they have some minor rights. They can always sue for grandparent rights, but for the most part, grandparents lose. The state of Texas gives lip service to grandparents, but really when it comes right down to it, grandparents are considered non-essentials. That's the way that it works in the courts for the most part. Indiana says that it should be a basic need of a child to develop and maintain meaningful relationships with other significant adults, such as grandparents, step-parents, and other relatives. For many people who have gone through divorce, they know that it's been the grandparents that have helped to make the children, that have helped to ease the way for the children to come through the divorce and to become healthy. And for one parent to deny that relationship to the other side, to the grandparents on the other side, is strictly wrong. The state of Texas really doesn't recognize that in any type of a legal enforceable way. That's why there are so many grandparents in the state of Texas that are starting to fight for grandparent visitation rights, because the relationship between a grandparent and a grandchild is very strong, very important to the nurture and upbringing of a child. And the other thing the state of Indiana recognizes is that there are unacceptable excuses for denying parenting time. And some of these excuses are, the child unjustifiably just doesn't want to go, doesn't want to see you, refuses to see you. You know what? Often if a child does not want to see a parent, it's probably because the parent has poisoned that child's mind. It's probably because the custodial parent has poisoned that child's mind. Not all the time, but many times that is the case. Or the parent can act as if you go see the non-custodial parent, you're going to break my heart. It's nonsense. Put on your big boy pants or your big girl pants and look out for your children. The second thing is, the child has a minor illness. Your son has sniffles today, so he can't come and see you. That's garbage. Do you mean to tell me that a father or a mother cannot take care of the children as well? That's ridiculous. Number 3, the child has to go somewhere. Well, where's he going? Well, he's got an appointment tonight. That's garbage too. If the relationship between the parent and the child is important, nonsense excuses like, the child has something else to do. I know of parents who actually schedule things intentionally during times of when the child is supposed to be having a relationship with the other parent, and then they use that as an excuse. Well, the child has dance lessons tonight, which I've just enrolled her in dance class for the next 6 months, and she can no longer see you. Or he is now playing soccer on every time he's supposed to be seeing you, and now he can no longer see you. That too is garbage. Or else, here's a good one. The child is not home. Really? Well, the child should be home. The child should know that it's important for him or her to have a relationship with both parents, and this is a nonsense excuse. It's an unacceptable excuse for denying parenting time. And here's a beautiful one, and this relates right directly to what the Attorney General what the meeting with the Attorney General is about. The non-custodial parent is behind in child support. Therefore, we need to punish him or punish her and say, if you don't get caught up in child support, you don't get to see your children. Parenting time and child support are two different things. Real child support is when the child knows that he or she has a relationship with both parents love him, both parents love him or her. Both parents support him or her. And you will not use the idea that, well, this parent is behind in child support, again, to poison the child's mind and to alienate the child from the other parent. The custodial parent does not want the child to go. Well, grow up. It's not your decision. It's not your decision. You are acting like God if you think. In fact, I wouldn't say you're acting like God, because God wouldn't do that. You're acting like the devil when you think that it's in the child's best interest to deny his or her time with the other parent. Oh, the weather is bad. It's too cold outside. We have to cancel the visitation. Nonsense. Put him in winter clothes or her in winter clothes, dress him up properly so that he or she can spend time with the other parent. And which accompanying this is, well, the child has no clothes to wear. Well, if the child is running around the house naked, maybe that's a real issue. But, this is really a nonsense excuse. Or here is another good one. The other parent has failed to meet the preconditions established by the custodial parent. The custodial parent does not get to lord it over the children nor the other parent. The custodial parent is just the parent who's providing primary care. Does not mean that the other parent is unimportant. And the state of Indiana recognizes that both parents are important. I'm not trying to use the state of Indiana as the golden state for these issues, but just in looking around, it seems that the state of Indiana has progressed a lot further in these things and a lot faster than the state of Texas has. So as we talk about the issues with the Attorney General on Wednesday, December the 6th, I hope that at least some of these issues are kept in the back of his mind. I'm not sure what he can or cannot do about them, but the reality is that in many instances, even though we like to pride ourselves on the great child support collection enforcement that we do, we're also a little bit backwards and behind the times, and are actually regressive in some of the policies that we have. So I'm hoping that this meeting will lead to a more fruitful discussion on how we can change things and make things better for both parents and for all of the children involved, even if it means that we no longer lead the nation in child support collection. Thank you.